Welcome to The Secret Witch Show, the podcast providing a safe and alchemical altar space of conversations which help powerful women escape a half-hearted, spiritless society and rediscover the freedom of living a wildly magical life. Every other week, we explore how to cast aside the wounds of shame, guilt, and fear connected with fully being yourself, so you can grant yourself permission to stop hiding, ground soulfully back into your body, illuminate your whole soul desires, tend your soul, rediscover and reclaim your powerful gifts, express your magic, and manifest your wildest alchemy. There's no better place to become who your heart longs to be. This is where we will guide you into liberation. I'm your host, Nicole Barton, and I'm so excited to dive in. Hello, my loves, and welcome to the show. Oh my goodness, one of the things that is just filling my heart so much recently is being in a Secret Witch Society Facebook group. If you are not yet part of that group, it is just the most gorgeous space for all of you to be welcome, and I would love for you to join us. It's one place I'm giving a lot of attention to recently. I've got a gorgeous team who are working on the content going out, repurposing a lot of everything I share, which is gorgeous. That's going out everywhere. And I'm feeling like this deep sense of like cultivating intimacy within our Secret Witch Society. So for the extra deep little bits of nuggets that don't go out everywhere else, that is the place to be. So if you are feeling called to be deeper in this path, that is the place to join us. So head to Secret Witch Society on Facebook. Other than that, on the Secret Witch Show today, our guest is Camille Busson-Thompson. Camille is a holistic business and visibility coach with a passion for empowering women, and after becoming a mother, her priorities shifted. She wanted to be more present, so she became a yoga teacher who specialised in love, sex and relationships. That was the first step closer to reclaiming who she was, and more she learned to listen to her body and her inner wisdom and less to the voice and opinions of others. In this episode, we explored the importance of self-expression for our business and magnetism, the value of harnessing Yoni eggs for feminine embodiment and self-expression, and we dived into the role of pleasure in creating a soul-led business and connecting more deeply with our wombs. Let's dive in. Welcome, Camille. We connected recently when I was on your glorious podcast to share my journey with healing burnout and how I created my soul business and alchemized all of that. So I'm absolutely delighted to have you sharing here now, and I'm especially excited for the juicy topic of Yoni eggs and all things self-expression in business. And they're potentially two topics that people in the mundane world may not combine, but in the magical lens, it makes perfect sense to me. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicole, for having me. It was a pleasure to have you on mine as well. And I'm very excited to be sharing on this topic that I love so much. So yes, ready to dive in.
Gorgeous. Well, what I would love to start with, and I always usually start this way, is for you to just share a little bit about your own journey. I would love to know like how you came to this particular work and your journey with learning to harness Yoni eggs, I guess, for deeper self-expression. And yeah, anything that feels relevant to this conversation.
Okay, yes, sure. So I'm a coach now, a holistic business coach. But I started my coaching journey being a sex, love, and empowerment coach for women. And so hence the Yoni egg experience, expertise. But if you want to know what brought me to the coaching to begin with, and this sexual energy journey and all of that, it's actually motherhood that brought me there. Yes, like a lot of things. It's I have two boys, and I believe that every time you become a mom, you experience losing yourself and the challenge or the opportunities to find who you are after that. because there's no going back, as we know. And there's no point trying to go back to your old body or go back to who you were before. It's just about building up this new identity, but also reclaiming who you want to be. So I loved my experience of being my mother. But the second time around, I also needed more help reclaiming my own body. So I was looking for ways to gain more pelvic floor health and strength at this moment. And I started to hear about Yoni eggs. And at the time I was teaching yoga. So I was already connected to my body and aware of energy, chakra system. I had done many different things before that. But at that point, I was already open to energy work. And the stone, the Yoni egg, which is I'm just going to explain briefly if you have no idea what that is, or if you've heard about it, but you're like, what is this egg that people are talking about? Yoni eggs are just an egg-shaped stone, most of the time traditionally made out of jade. But there is, and we can talk more about it if you have questions, there is so many different stones that you can work with. So today you find a lot of different gemstones for that, or stones. And so I found that to be a practice that you use it to work out. It's pussy yoga. I like to say it like that because everybody understands yoga. It's an amazing way to work both on the physiological, so regaining strength, dexterity with your muscles in your pelvic floor area. So, and you don't need to have given birth for that. It's really amazing for any woman. It really helps feel strong and have a strong foundation of your pelvic floor. So there's like this physical side of things. And that was the main first reason I went into Yoni egg practice. But I also knew already that it was much more than that. I knew that the egg, what attracted me to it was this holistic way to get my pelvic floor and my power back. I was hearing things about the stone and the practice being an energy practice. It actually comes from the Taoist tradition, so very old Chinese energy work. And so the power behind that attracted me. I thought, okay, I'm very intrigued if I can do two things at the same time, regain my pelvic floor energy and strength, and also connect more to myself and regain more empowerment in my own body. I want that. So I started to practice with this gem, with this I say a gem, but it's a stone. It was a jade stone. And yes, the things started to change. So fast forward, I just made some big leap and big decision through the months that I started to practice with this egg. And there's a lot of factors in life. There's not always one thing that leads to big changes, but definitely the practice of the jade egg, the Yoni egg, was what connected me back to really what I wanted to do. And in my life, I was at the moment at the crossroad of work-wise, like what I was going to be doing, going back to corporate world to make a living, or keep being a yoga teacher in London I was not making any money at all at the moment, at the time. So these practices just really helped me I just started to listen to myself and my body, which I wasn't, I wasn't doing that much. And at the time, my also worthiness level was very low. My self-esteem was very low. I hadn't worked in a while. I was feeling like after you give birth, you're just like not yourself. Your postpartum body is also like, doesn't feel like yourself. So I was in a very like disconnected kind of state, even though I was very happy, again, a new mom, but it was a hard time. And the practice really connected back my soul with my body, with my purpose, and all of the things starting to click. So it wasn't a one-time practice. It was a few months of just practicing with the stone again and again. It was a way for me to also give myself space, connect with my body, love it. So I'm taking the story a bit longer than maybe just answering your question, but that's how it started happening for me. And I just had to get trained with this practice. So I decided to do just that, and to become a sex and relationship and empowerment coach for women with specialization in the jade egg. So that's how that got me started on my journey, empowering women. And yeah,
I love that. I love that so much. There's like so many areas I could dive into here. I'm just chuckling though what you said about it wasn't a one-time journey. I'm just imagining like this experience with the Yoni egg, and if it was just like one time and then all of a sudden this profound change, like imagine how that would be and how it would just be like overnight catapulted into the new version of us. So that made me chuckle. And I loved all that you shared. There's like so much synchronicity actually in our journey, because the way that I was initiated into my soul work, and really I've been, you know, a healer for decades, but the deep work that I'm doing now was through also giving birth. And I think that's just such magical synchronicity, because it was that kind of portal into my feminine power. And I think there's really something in that I think we can dive into. I'm sure you'll agree, around like the power contained within our wombs. And yeah, I'm wondering if there's anything that we can dive into there. Actually, that feels like a juicy place to go into first.
Yes, totally. And this is one of the things that I love the most with the practice. I mean, you can go to the Yoni practice for so many reasons, but you know, for me, the experience was truly like empowerment, was really like finding my power back to hear what I wanted to do, say it out loud, go for what I wanted, which I wouldn't have done before that. And so, yes, the womb is definitely connected to our self-expression. So in the chakra system, you also have those two chakra, the throat chakra, which is the self-expression or the expression center, communication, and the womb. So the second chakra, that is where, you know, sexuality, sensuality, and the womb, the power of the womb is linked to. And so when we experience being blocked or having some heaviness, some blockages around one of the two zones, you can definitely work with the other one to help heal it out or to open it up. You can even do like this very simple exercise of like putting your lips together, like that, like we say cul de poule in French. I don't know how you say, like a
like a kissing power.
Yeah, okay, let's do the kissing, because you can't see, it's a podcast. But imagine doing that, or contracting your lips together like a kiss, and you can feel your bum tensing at the same time, or, you know, your pelvic floor contracting, because those areas are linked. There's a lot of like relation. So whenever we give birth, for example, chanting, singing, sounding is really good. It helps opening things up down there, right? So when we work with the jade egg, and that's what I experienced, you're doing a lot of more than just that, but you are releasing, you are opening, and you are allowing your expression to be clearer, to be bolder, to be bigger. So this is one way that I like to use the Yoni egg practice. And I find it working with your sexual energy and bringing it up towards this center to open up and speak out really, you know, like clearly, is so helpful. So there's so many parallels.
I love that. I love that on so many levels. I actually remember when I gave birth, my whole right side of my face got paralyzed, and it started off with my jaw. And I remember at the time being like, wow, this is amazing, because I kind of already had known about that link, but I went to my chiropractor and he had reminded me that there was this link between the womb and like almost like the throat and the jaw. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting, like what's going on here. And it really was. I'm interested that you used the word earlier, power and strength and toning, and then it's also simultaneously like this piece about opening, and I'm wondering if you can speak to that, because I think one of the things that I've seen women, especially who are secret witches, they and they have this like deep amount of fear about their power. And I think there's also this sense of like power being this masculine thing that we have to like almost compete with. And actually for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, there's a sense of like feminine power being literally that opening, softening, releasing. So I'd love to hear if there's anything in that. I'm kind of going a bit off topic to what I'd planned to ask you, but it feels feels relevant.
No, that's fine. That's welcome. Yes, definitely. I really agree and resonate with this idea of power, redefining this idea of power for us. And there's definitely a lot of power in relaxing, releasing, being able to open up. And so, yes, with the Jadic practice also for I was mentioning the building strength, the strengthening, and it's never to just like have a super tight pussy. That's not the goal for anyone. Of course, when you are like building up strength after giving birth, that's a totally different topic. You want to be working with strengthening in that sense, but also for some women, the experience of working with the egg is also to just help relax, actually, to help just really listen to your own body's yeses and nos, to just connect and yes, practice the receiving, practice being able to open up to receive. So that's a practice that I love to use, and that's linked with business as well. Like for us to build up our capacity to hold, to receive money, abundance, wealth, all of that. You can also work with your ability to receive pleasure. There's like a very powerful link, as you probably know, with money and pleasure. And so you can, sometimes it's harder for a brain to understand. We're like afraid of like receiving on a mental level. So practicing and receiving with the pleasure practice, like going slowly, following your own, like where you are at, is a great way. And in this sense, we are learning to open up and hold and receive and just be in the pleasure and feel worthy of the pleasure. And just, you mentioned like before we started talking about how shame and fear are the things that are keeping women tied up and locked up with our power. And when you are practicing opening, it's not a like big opening, it's just like slowly opening and releasing, opening and releasing, and opening more and releasing. And because you're going to bump against things when you are opening more to receive, whether it's money or pleasure. And so when we are opening up to being and owning our own power, our own voice, when we're working through visibility even, it's a practice of opening in a way that feels safe enough for us and our bodies, and also releasing shame, releasing layers. So when you work with pleasure, there's so many things. It's like such a it can be intense, but it's at a certain level very doable. Practice with simple steps of like accepting more pleasure. It could be, doesn't have to be sexual pleasure right away. That's definitely one way, but you can just practice receiving pleasure in simple dose, like comments, compliments, and taking them in and saying yes, thank you, taking in sunshine, good things happening to you, just this capacity that we have to receive and not shrink, not deflect, not, just be like, yes, I can take that and I can hold it. And this is how what I think about when we talk about like this type of power. This is a very different power, but then I believe that when you are able to hold all of that, you are so rich and so powerful.
Yeah, I love what you've just shared there. I always talk about that, actually, the power of receiving, the masculine, that everybody seems to be like, no, go away, toxic masculine. I'm like, you need to be able to hold the masculine to be able to receive. So I love that you just shared that. And this piece about pleasure feels really, really important. I think, especially when we're talking about creating a business, it feels like, as you were talking to, we're kind of culturally conditioned in our culture to shame pleasure itself. And I think that's certainly super important to reclaim if we are wanting anything, even if it's not a business, whatever it is we desire. If we're not in touch with pleasure, we're not even able to access our desires. So I think that whole process of like working with yoni eggs in that way to reclaim pleasure feels super potent.
Yes, definitely. And the one thing that I love the most, I guess, with the egg practice is that there's something that you do for yourself by yourself. So sure, you can get, like I trained women to do it, and then I send them audios, and then they start their practice. But then ultimately it's their own practice. It's not a doctor. It's not someone else who's gonna tell you if it's good or not, or it's really a self-empowerment tool. I like to look at it like that, because this is also a way to realize or reconnect with your own source of, yes, pleasure, power, whatever you want to be, worthiness, whatever you're trying to build up more, like confidence. You can use the egg and the practice to just with being very intentional with your practice, to source it from yourself, to know that you can give that to yourself. So yes, I love that with pleasure, especially. Self-pleasure is definitely something that is still like a bit awkward to talk about openly. A lot of people are like, but this is truly such a key that we should all like celebrate. This is like so beautiful and sacred, and there's definitely a way to work with the eggs to help release the shame, the conditioning, and all the things you mentioned that we are receiving. Yeah.
And of course the shame is the things that it's what's in the way of our full self-expression. So really that's also healing our self-expression. I love what you said there though about like owning our power, and there's a sense of like the yoni egg being used for our own self-healing as well, because I think often we can get caught in this kind of idea that other people are going to fix us, whereas this is very much around us using it for ourselves to heal ourselves. So yeah, I love what you share there as well. I'm wondering if there's anything more you want to add to that.
No, I think I just really always thought every woman should have her own yoni egg and empower herself to also like know exactly what you said about like know what she desires, not afraid to go for it, ask for it, set boundaries around what she wants, and also like, yes, knows how to ask, like on all levels. Yes, it's really like the knowing, the daring how to ask what she wants for. And once you have this practice with your own body, and you know your yes is your no, you're listening to your own signs, you're able to express it to your partner or other people, your team, or you're able to then really be like in your power. And
And self-expression. I'm wondering if we can really talk to, because just to tie this into business a little bit, we're talking about self-expression in our business.
yeah.
And this is, I know you and I have like talked about this. I'm just wondering, because there's a real sense of like, for me, the core essence of what I teach is really around the importance of self-expression in our business. For me, it's very much like if we're not able to express ourselves, we're not able to magnetize those who need our medicine. So I'm just wondering whether you can share a bit more around what you see around the importance of self-expression in our business, and then we can move into more on whatever comes up there.
Yeah, totally. So I agree with you. I'm 100% like when you are expressing yourself without so much judgment on yourself, so much fear, when you're allowing yourself to be imperfect, to be like, this is who I am, and to show that, whether it's in like on your post, writing content, or when you're on videos, like showing up, the more you are at peace with being yourself, the more you're going to magnetize your people. I completely agree and feel this has been my experience as well. But it's really hard to get there for a lot of us. You have to battle so much like inner fears, inner judgments. And so this journey of removing the layers of judgment and accepting, being bolder in your self-expression, that is something that the work of the egg can help you just already from doing more self-pleasure practice. I mean, just having a regular pleasure practice can help you just feel more in your body. And so in business, when you have to, yes, like have an interview or show up for a live with someone, or just like record a video, I'm not saying you have to self-pleasure right before. Of course, that could be fun, but I'm just saying, like, if you have a pleasure practice that could be sexual, or you could be dancing, you could be doing different things of connecting with your body, that's going to help you just feel so much more grounded. It's going to be helping your nervous system be okay, feeling safe, and creating this safety to be seen is what we want to achieve when we are taking up more space in business, getting more visible, because this is part of it. Like, you're going to be able to shine and take up space and speak up to the extent of what you allow yourself, of your sense of worthiness and your sense of safety, whether you think you're safe or not. I'm talking about the inner safety, how your unconscious brain is working. And so this is one of the ways that I love to work with visibility, especially in business, is like making sure that you are aligning your creativity and your visibility moment with taking good care of your nervous system. So having body embodiment practicing just really regularly and nourishing yourself. So I like to work. I don't know if you want to talk specifically about how I use a jade egg, because with the work, it's a bit different. Like, I work a lot around my own cycle, so my menstrual cycle, and you can do that with the lunar cycle, of course, if you're not having cycles. But I like to think of phases in my cycle. I plan my content creation this way. I plan the way that I do events this way, and also, so my creativity moments is when I use the Yoni egg most. So I will have practice that will help boost my creativity, giving me more of that fire energy when I am already going up towards my ovulation, when I am going in that direction of my cycle. And I will also use, so through rituals and some practices, I can really help boost what is already naturally in place, which is like having more ideas, feeling bolder, ready to show yourself more. And then in the other phase of my cycle, or the phase where you go from ovulation to your inner fall, inner winter. So when we are just retrieving a bit, being more in the analytics of things, and then just in the resting, nurturing, I would use some embodiment practices to help release emotion, to help release what's too much. Because in this phase for myself and a lot of my clients also, there's a need to like just put something out. Sometimes there's anger, sometimes there's so bigger emotions. And you can work with the jade egg as well, or the Yoni egg, to help release some emotions. You could do other types of practices as well, like, yes, I mentioned dancing, breath work, there's different, but embodiment practices. So I count the Yoni egg practice in the embodiment, but the way that I use it is to fuel my creativity, visibility, releasing emotions, and then just resting, because there's no practice during wintertime.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love how you've broken that down and linked it to the cycles, actually, and just the kind of identification of it as a feminine embodiment tool. And there is such a power in, you know, that feminine embodiment piece, especially if we're here to create solar businesses. I mean, we can't really create them without being in touch with our bodies, but I think this is a really great practical tool that women can begin to maybe choose into beginning to work with if they're feeling called that way, for the cycle of self-expression, really, that's evident in our own bodies, in our own natural cycle.
Yeah. And I've experienced that when you don't force it, but when you're relaxing into what is naturally present for you, then it's so much easier. So that's what I like also to practice as being in my feminine power, is just like honoring, okay, I'm not feeling it now to do anything, you know, social, or I don't want to be showing myself up. So yes, I won't do that. I will honor that. And just then it's when the strategy kicks in, and you can use things that you have scheduled in advance, and just being more strategic about being present online, for example, or just making sure things that needs to run smoothly are running smoothly, without putting yourself, like pushing yourself, and yes, getting burned.
I love that so much. I'm really loving actually the connection. I'm just thinking of I know this episode would have gone out after I've been teaching this, but there's a remedy in the archetypal apothecary mystery school that we work with called Naja. It's very much the snake energy. She is all around self-expression. So this kind of obviously linked to Kundalini energy and all of that is also very present for me at the moment, because I'm talking about Naja a lot. So I love all of that. There's also something that's just come to mind as you were talking about the kind of the more summer part of your cycle and harnessing that. And there's a piece about, I think, intentionality and how people can use this with intention. Because one of the business containers that I was in recently had a big part of it was sex magic, and which I loved. And so again, that unusual mix of like magic and business, and particularly sex magic. And I think there's, really something there about pleasure, but also about the way that we can harness sex magic to kind of activate our intention. So I'm wondering if that kind of applies anywhere in terms of working with Yoni eggs too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sex magic is one of a beautiful like practice that is, you don't need an egg to do that, but you can definitely work with the jade egg or the Yoni egg to work through this harnessing of energy and building it up, and just like working it through your chakra system. I think intentionality is just at the core of the Yoni egg practice, just to begin with, because you can have a simple practice. I mean, if you are having a Yoni egg and you've just like tried it out, there's so many things you can do. There's a lot of ideas around like having a Yoni egg practice is just wearing an egg for a few hours, and it's so not that. It's so much more. There's definitely some specific practices, different positions, different breathing, visualization. It's a shamanic tantric practice, so there's a lot, and there's so many flavors of it. You can use it for healing, for sexual pleasure, for getting into your wild woman, there's a healing. There's so many layers of it. But bottom line is you can have a simple practice, just a very basic practice, and depending on the intentionality of your practice, then you can direct it. So in business, being intentional, as you know, is super key. And working with the vision of what you want. So I guess talking a bit about manifestation now, but yes, visualizing your goals, visualizing whatever you want to see happening more of, and working with a simple egg practice to connect your whole body with this vision, with calling in what you want on all levels. And what's happening with the sex magic is that you are tapping into this different energetic vibrancy, energetic level with when you are using sexual energy. It's like meditation. You can go through meditation, you can use sexual pleasure to help you get into this altered state of consciousness. And this is what will help you accelerate your visualization, your manifestation. So you could do that with an egg, you could do that without an egg, but there's definitely ways to boost that in your work, in your practice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just visualizing as you talked about that, like this kind of sacred ritual being created by anyone who wants to do this, and really getting intentional about even like the different stones that we use for the Yoni egg, like what, depending on what intention we have to work with it for, which I think is really gorgeous.
Yeah. There's just one word of wisdom I'd love to share about that, the different types of stones, because nowadays, yes, we can connect with different stones that calls us, because we feel like, yes, the vibration of a certain stone, like the rose quartz, for example, might be calling you. And also, I mean, some stones are just not made to be used internally. So while there's a lot of like, I can understand attraction with the different stones and which one you're going to get for your practice. Some stones are great to just hold and for you to have, but the practices that I guide my clients through are a bit more intense, and because they are very energetical and we use them for healing, then I always recommend just to stay safe with jade or obsidian for certain people, but that could be too powerful sometimes. So obsidian is it's a volcanic, it's a very dark stone, could be amazing. But to get started, I would always recommend jade because of the qualities of it, the density, and some stones can break. I mean, I haven't had an experience myself, but my teacher and some people that she worked with had experience with just a rose quartz just falling apart, because there's different layers inside. So not directly in the practice, but outside after. And you want to use a stone that is really safe, that is non-porous, that you can for hygienic reason as well, like clean very easily. So the jade is always the safest to get started. Then you can maybe get to other stones, but yes, just being a bit cautious.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Well, I'm wondering actually whether you can just speak to the properties of jade, because that would be good for women who may not know what jade is about.
Yeah, well, jade, I think it was chosen in the tradition. That was tradition, and jade was used. That's why we hear jade egg or Yoni egg alternatively. Jade, there's different types of jade. There's two big families of jade. You have jadeite or jadeite in French. So jadeite, I think in English, they're more the greener green jade that you think of when you think of jade. And the nephrite jade is the kind that I would recommend for Yoni egg practices. This is a darker, way darker, sometimes with some spots on it, lighter white spots, or a little touch of colors, but it's a darker green. And it is supposed to be very balancing. So with feminine and masculine energy, yin yang, within our own womb, it could really help just like balance energies. And it's just a vibration I think mostly there's a lot of stories in the Chinese medicine with the dragon sperms, and there's a lot of stories. I don't know about that. All I know is that it's very balancing. So whether in your own sexual energy, there's a lot of fire or too much water, too much of yin, too much of yang, it really helps balance. That's why it's a perfect stone for those practices, because regardless of like what's happening for you, in your unique case, it's just going to be really helping balancing things out. And it's a very safe stone to use. So for all these reasons, I think jade is the one.
Jade sounds like the one. I guess maybe then let's bring in other things that are external to create our intention, like essential oils. We could use like rose oil burning in the background or something like that to bring our intention that way as well. Gorgeous. What would you say this just came to me, to any women who maybe aren't kind of in the practice of any kind of sexual work or pleasure work and are listening to this like, oh my goodness, like so much fear, like what would you say to them, just so that I think we can address that, because I think it's perfectly normal as well when coming across something like this, perhaps for the first time, and having that deeper resistance as well. I think it'd be good to speak to that.
Yes, totally. And, that would have been me years ago. So I completely understand. Like before I dived into that work and, the sexual energies, I was like, not at all into those things. And I would have, if I had listened to that, I'm just thinking I would have been like, what? Why did you put that stone and why? This is crazy. No, I mean, everybody will be on a different moment in their own like sexual empowerment journey, and not everybody wants to be having sexual pleasure practices, and that's completely fine. But if you are listening to this and you feel like intrigued and you're like, oh my god, there's something that I'm missing out on and I want, or you're hearing yourself wanting to know more, then there is more for you. And so there's a way. But you could be starting when we are doing any of those practices, and even going back to sex magic, which is a beautiful visualization practice that you boost with your own body. You could be using either sexual turn on, but you can also be just using tenderness, a gentle touch. So you could be laying in bed, or just like in any position really, and just holding your body, or touching your hair lightly, connecting to the sense of touch. That could be just enough. And using love energy is such a powerful energy that you could be using self-love, or just any love you can connect to. If you have children, if you have loved ones, just connect in your heart with like, what are you feeling when you think of them? Right? Connecting to that energy and just feeling that, imagining it's just like floating down into your hands. And as we have little connectors to our heart chakras in our hands as well, you could be just imagining this is your heart is here, connecting. Your ability to give is here in your hands, and just placing your hands in different parts of your body, just very gently. You could be hugging yourself. You could be just placing both of your hands over your chest. This is enough for you to just connect to yourself and to give yourself energy, because any of these practices are just, whether they're with the sexual energy or love energy, they're just a way to remind yourself that you are able to heal yourself. You're able to give yourself whatever you need. You just need to pause and put those hands on your body somewhere. You don't need to get into sexual energy if you're not yet there. You could just place a hand on your womb, one hand on your heart as well. And just listen. And that's enough to get started. Right?
Gorgeous. And create that awareness of what wants to be expressed as well. When we bring it back to self-expression, it's like just even that simple hand on heart, hand on womb space is just tuning into our deeper self, our deeper truth, I guess you could call it. That is gorgeous. Just whilst we're on that topic of kind of fear, I'm wondering what you would say to anybody who has maybe experienced trauma of any kind, who may be considering working with the jade egg and is just a little bit like, oh, but what about trauma that I've had? Is there anything that you would say around that?
Yeah, thank you for this question, because I think it is important. And through my training and work with women, we've worked through those questions of trauma, of course. I think that the jade egg practice is a beautiful healing journey for anyone who experienced trauma of any kind. I mean, losing a child, abortion, sexual trauma, all of those, even if we haven't even had trauma in our own life, we're all carrying some levels of trauma in our bodies, right? Either from lineage, from like, we are all doing, and you have a range of like how heavy it is for you and how much it is impacting your life and your expression. So any of these practices, you just want to be very gentle and mindful. If you know you have experience, you have trauma, you are just needing to go one step at a time. So there's no rush. And I would just always recommend to have someone supporting you on this journey of self-healing. You can be doing it by yourself, but with some guidance. Because yes, you can be getting yourself back into stories, and we don't want to do that. But this is such a beautiful way to help your body release, store trauma in your body, that it is definitely something that I would encourage you to try. So with some guidance, step by step, and just having, I think again, this like having this connection with the stone and knowing how to do some gentle practice. Gentle releasing is better than just going and trying to, force anything. So having a gentle, simple practice, being guided and doing that regularly, I've seen this being so helpful with like releasing any type of trauma. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm glad I asked that now, actually. Yeah, that feels like a really beautiful answer to that. I'm just wondering if I have any more questions. I feel like we've dived pretty deep on this. I'll just see if there's anything I've written down to ask you. No, I've just noticed that I wrote down pussy yoga. I loved that, by the way. Yeah. No, I feel like that's a good place to close, unless there's anything particular that you wanted to explore that we haven't yet explored.
No, I could talk about it for hours, so there's always more, but I think that we touched on the main key things we wanted to. So yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous. I'm wondering if there's anything specific to business we want to add, actually, just before we complete, given this is tied into how to work with Yoni eggs for deeper self-expression in business. Is there anything that we can just complete on with that, I guess?
Yeah, I guess what's coming for me is that when we are working in our businesses, you said, yes, we have a body, we cannot forget about it, but we tend to forget about our bodies because we are sitting down, writing a lot on computers or phone. And this is so important to, our businesses is not just actions. It's easy to resume being in business with taking actions and doing this and doing that, and just being in the performance hustle world that we are in. And just like rebalancing more of the being is the key to stay sane while you run your business. Listen to your own body and honor your own body needs so that you don't get into burnout. Just like reconnecting to what's really important. Like when you are with your family, when you are connecting with nature, when you're back in your body, you're like, yes, of course I'm stressed because I have this launch and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, at the end of the day, what's more important, right? So if you have those practices, if you have ways to get yourself back to the important things, whether it's a Yoni egg practice or a dance practice or a yoga practice, whatever is your practice, and you can have many things, then you are able to build a different kind of business, build a business that makes sense for you, that you're going to be able to sustain in the long term, that is going to be looking at like you, like we said, your audience, your people are going to find you because you are living in congruence. You are living what is true to you. When you are living your truth, then people will resonate with you. And maybe we can change a bit this way, like model something else in the world, like how we run businesses. And I think women are great at doing that, or like shifting how it's been done and just like honoring our bodies as we work, our rhythms, and find this new way to work and also grow beautiful and successful businesses. Yeah.
I love that so much. I'm so glad that so glad I asked that and that you shared that, because in my mind, I'd forgotten that, mundane business very different to feminine magical business. And in my mind, I was like, well, of course we'd use Yoni eggs in the day because it's perfect. But then I forget, actually, no, it's not. That doesn't make sense to everyone that way. So yeah, that is definitely the perfect place to complete, I think. What I would love to know from you now is for you to share, like, whatever you're working on, where people can find you, what they might be interested in, and yeah.
Sure. Thank you for that. So I am offering 2 different ways to work with me at the moment. So I have a mastermind for women in business, mostly coaches, consultant, creatives that are looking to, yes, be even more visible and build what I just touched on, like the business that feels like them. So it means finding out what works for them business-wise, strategy-wise, but also like really taking their whole being into account, honoring that. So this is like a 6-month mastermind that runs. So there's depends on when this episode is being released, but it's twice a year because it's 6 months. So you can get in the mastermind. It's only for 8 women. So this is like a very intimate group. So I like to go very deep and hold high quality space for my women in these groups. And then there is one-on-one. So I have some private clients as well that can experience working with me and getting supports over 6 months as well. Yeah, you can find my information. I guess you can share my Instagram. I like to hang out there if you want to ask me a question on the jade egg. This is not something that I offer. I used to offer different things around the egg practice. Now it's more for like my one-on-one clients and for some work that we do. But if you have questions, listening to that episode, you're like, wait, I want to know more. Just reach out to me on Instagram, send me a DM, tell me you've listened to the show and you have some questions, and I will be happy to talk with you, give you some answers. Yes, I have like, what do you call them, calls, discovery calls or consultation calls for my work. So if you feel like you want to know more, then you can definitely book one of these as well.
Perfect. That is gorgeous. And we'll pop all of the information on the show notes as well for women to be able to find you. So thank you so much. That was such a juicy conversation. And yeah, I'm so glad that we had it.
Yes, love that too. Thank you so much, Nicole. It was a pleasure.
This was a very specifically focused episode today, which I enjoyed. Here are my takeaways. Yoni eggs come from the Taoist tradition and are grounded in ancient Chinese energy work, and they can be used for all sorts of purposes, self-expression being a key one. Working with our wombs and yoni eggs connects us first and foremost to our feminine bodies as an embodiment practice. It helps us to listen to ourselves, hear our desires, and tune into our deeper purpose, as well as heal our shame and self-judgment. Becoming aware of these things helps us to reclaim our power because we start to listen to ourselves and be able to express things, say things out loud that we'd previously ignored and not tuned into. Our pelvic floor is linked to our mouth and throat. There is a connection between our sacral and throat chakras, and this is why working in the pelvic area can help us free up our self-expression. There is a difference between feminine power and masculine power, and jade eggs can really help us to relax, release and open up, as is important to the feminine. The more open we are to receiving, the more able we are to hold pleasure, abundance and money. We can get really intentional and creative with ritual for yoni eggs and bring in all sorts of embodiment tools, whether meditation, breathing or visualization. It can be simple or in depth, but the real key here is that this is your own practice. Yoni eggs can be used as a way to self-heal, which is reclaiming your power in and of itself. Many women are used to the mundane lens of business creation, and a key takeaway here is that magical business is different. Things like harnessing the sacred magical technology of yoni eggs are integral parts of creating a business from feminine heart and soul. If you'd like to get the show notes and links for everything we've chatted about in this episode, head to www.secretwitch.co.uk. If you know a secret witch who would love this episode, please share with them to help them liberate themselves. And so you don't miss out on next week's episode, head to your podcast app of choice and hit subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.